my actual eyesight. Is there the high drive? Deep center. Go, go, go. We're out of here. We're out of here. Say ya, playa.
Just like they drew it up in Hollywood. Caladros, the 3-2. Swing and a miss! And the Audubon Green Wave have upset the Kingsway Dragons! And this is it for good! The Audubon Green Wave are back in the Final Four! A gold pile on their side!
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to DW Broadcasting's coverage of men's varsity
From our
soccer.
entire crew, we'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one, folks.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 17, I believe, of the Dan Wilkins Show. It has, it will be episode 17 because we have had 3 episodes since we've rebooted with Tad Kozanowski, Dan McMaster, and Andrew Daly, the Gateway head football coach. Our last one, we have had 3 straight guests from the high school background in a row. And now we move and shift our gears over towards the junior college side of things, although he is a former high school coach himself. Angel Rodriguez joins us this week. He is the current head softball coach at Salem Community College. He has held that position since 2022 in an effort to revamp the program, which last played before then in 2013. He brought them back to the field for the first time in 10 years, and he has had incredible success with the program, going from a 500 record in his first season and the first season of the program in a decade to winning 31 games in 2024. So it is a very unique path that we have seen from him. And Angel, we are very happy to have you on board with us today.
Man, it's a pleasure to be on, and looking forward to a fun night, man.
It'll be fun indeed. You know, we've finally been able to get this interview in after delay after delay after Eagles game and with this, that, and the other thing. We finally are able to sit down and have this conversation. So, um, I will say for myself, I did have a little bit of difficulty just finding pre Salem information besides your year doing assistant baseball at Gloucester. Um, and you went to Rowan for your bachelor's, but other than that, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you went to high school, what sports you played, and how you got into um, coaching athletics.
Yes, I'm a 2014 Gloucester City High School graduate. Played baseball there, ran a little cross country, did a couple year or two of basketball. After that, went over was a road runner for 2 years. Started my college there, and then transferred over to Rowan. Somewhere in that transition, wanted to get back into coaching. Kind of stay in the sport in some capacity. Um, and softball just kind of just landed in my lap. It all started one night, just out at dinner, talking about, hey, why don't you come help out with a local team in Brooklawn? And I said, oh, why not give it a shot? See what it's like. Did baseball for a little bit. Um, Enjoyed baseball. A little bit slow on the coaching perspective. Definitely have to have a lot of interest in it. Softball, a little faster pace. Just kind of matched my style a little bit and kind of just lifted off from there. So started off with some little league teams that turned into GSA and went into the travel realm. Was fortunate enough to meet Chad Zierfoss, another Gloucester resident, and he kind of started off his travel league with the Brawlers and got me involved there and was there for a couple of years, and then saw the Salem Community College job open and thought, hey, this could be a nice little another step up and kind of revamp a program and make it my own. So I was definitely fortunate enough to kind of to go through that process. And our athletic director, Bob Bonnell, and our athletic coordinator and baseball coach, John Holt, good interview. They definitely want someone to come in and get the program back up and run it from scratch. And it's been great ever since. Learned a lot. Met a lot of coaches in that role, and it's been a good experience so far.
Yeah, and I think one of the interesting things about, just your story and your route, also Chad Zierfoss, another JUCO softball head coach. He recently took the position over at Cecil. We covered a couple of games for them back in earlier in October, but um the JUCO route is so interesting, and I'm currently in that JUCO route. I'm a freshman at RCSJ Gloucester. I'm sure we'll be seeing each other on the diamond at some point in March or April, but um, it is very interesting to be immersed in that JUCO route because you don't have those giant lecture halls of 300 kids like you would at a regular university, and it's not for everybody, but it is certainly tailored to, what you need the most. And I have, now that I've been in the junior college and in the community college realm for over a month now, I can definitely advocate for it. And even though, like I said, it is not for everybody, there are some people where it is the best option, whether it's financially, educationally, I will always advocate for that. But that's a great story. And we will get into the Salem coaching job and how you have revamped that program in a minute. But before then, you were talking about you coached, you were a volunteer assistant coach at Gloucester baseball in 2021. This was a year before you took the job at Salem, and I have not ran into many coaches who have coached both baseball and softball. I've ran into many who have done one but not the other, and some who have great admiration for the other but have only coached in, say, baseball or softball. So, considering that you have experience, even if it was only just a year at Gloucester High, there are a lot of differences that I think get swept under the rug between baseball and softball, especially in the coaching realm. What did you find to be the biggest differences between coaching in baseball versus softball?
Yeah, definitely the pitching. Overhand versus underhand, that'll get you. Other than that, just kind of knowing the game speed of both. Softball a little bit shorter distance, got to kind of work a little bit faster. Footwork, getting the ball out of your glove pretty quickly. Batting styles, obviously softball, there's slappers, different defenses you have to accompany for that too. Smaller field, so just kind of knowing the diameters of the field and how aggressive do you want to be and what kind of pressure you're going to put in and knowing the arms of athletes. Same in baseball too. So I think a lot of the fielding perspectives of fielding your ground ball and making accurate throws, a lot of that stuff kind of goes hand in hand. Pitching is obviously the biggest difference, and then just kind of knowing the different at bats you get too. Depending on what you have in softball, but they're both enjoyable. I enjoyed doing both. I had a great time at Gloucester High. Felt good getting back into my alma mater a little bit and working alongside Coach Galbraith. So that was interesting, playing for him and then, being alongside him. And he does a really good job with them. And it was good to learn a little bit from him too, right? I took a lot of good things that he has as his coaching style and practice plans and, different things to mix it up and kind of a little bit of everything that I've, took out of there as a player and a coach and start implementing it here, amongst other things that I picked up along the way. So
And I think one of the things that I've always found to be interesting when I think about the baseball coaches that I have not necessarily worked for but covered over the years, just kind of the mentality. It feels a little bit different, just at least in what I've seen, where, in baseball, a lot of it is very hard nosed, very, very no nonsense. And, what I've noticed when I cover your games is that there is a lot more of like everybody's cheering for everybody as loud as they possibly can. Meanwhile, a baseball game can go by and you can still hear the birds chirping. You can still hear the crickets at night. Not to say that baseball players don't cheer on their teammates. I'm not implying that, but certainly just from a sport wide standpoint, there's a lot of smaller differences, like you said, with the pitching. Obviously, the overhand versus underhand that goes without saying, and the field size as well. The slappers in softball, that's one thing. But I think the mentalities I have found certainly have some tweaks in them. And the coaching as well, where I am hard pressed to find a lot of baseball coaches that keep everything positive. from what I've heard from you, you like to keep everything positive. And from all the post-game chatter that I've heard, with your players, whatever might have happened in the past is just a minor thing. You work on it at practice. But then I see some baseball coaches that if you make a mistake, they drill it into you. And I feel like that's definitely something that I've seen change as I've covered both baseball and softball over the years.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And that's one of the things we preach a lot, and you'll hear it a lot. I've heard it at different coaching clinics, I heard it at different camps, especially around the softball world, is just, it's a game of failure, right? We know it. I'm the first one to say, even coaches, there's times where, we might have try, being a little bit more aggressive than we want to be and maybe run someone into an out. But that's part of the game, and same thing with mistakes that we have. So, sometimes it gets a little frustrating, especially when it's something routine. You're like, you could have had it, but hey, in two more innings, you're going to get the same play. And if you make that one, no one remembers the one from 2 innings ago, right? They're all excited about that next play. So that's the kind of mentality we try to have with our group. Like, hey, let's forget about what happened. Let's move on, find the next best thing we can do. And then our team does a really good job of picking each other up. They're there for each other, and that's the most important thing. And that's been the flip so far for us from our getting started to year two, is them buying into that, and it works. Even going into our big streak for our winning streak, and then heading in the playoffs. We had a lot of adversity. A lot of these players that are from all over the place, they don't know like the teams out here, right? They don't know the competitiveness or like the rivals per se, or what conference play means, because they, truthfully didn't grow up around here. So to them, it's like we got to be perfect, we got to be perfect. And once they kind of let loose a little bit, and kind of played a little bit more free and for each other, we changed it around, and it was great.
Yeah, you're kind of like I would say like half of my questions that I have later on. Like you're already starting to dive into. So we will get there and we will talk about the roster construction in a little bit. But after 2021, obviously job at Salem opens up. Now, from what I was able to piece together, just because there was some limited information, you took the job in 2022, a year before the program basically restarted. You had a year to build up everything, get your NLIs out there, pick up, the recruiting that you needed to do so that you could start off on the right foot. Because sometimes there's just some programs that I've seen that just start right away. They don't really have time to develop a roster. You had time to develop that roster. So I would ask, what prompted that move to Salem? Did you just see it and decided, yeah, I want to take that up. I want to give that a shot.
Yeah, it was, I saw it. I think it was just, on a website, or it could have been through LinkedIn. And, I said, why not, give it a shot, see what happens, go through the interview process, kind of get my feet wet, and what that looks like. And, fate had it that, hey, we want to bring you in, and we want you to take over. And it was kind of a shock. It was a lot at once. It was a quick decision. Went in, the first one, for the interview was a Zoom, and then I went in person, a week later, and it was great. I felt, being a community college student myself, and kind of knowing a lot of athletes that chose that route first, it felt like that's where I wanted to start off, right? Something small, get to kind of learn as I go, and build up my own tendencies, but also, build a program, that I get to start, and kind of go from there. So it was definitely exciting. It was, learn as you go, quick on your feet. And the recruiting process, I'll tell you what, was, a little bit, not nerve wracking, but it was hard. We're zooming with a lot of people. We're trying to, get players to buy into coming into a rebuild program, which, has some doubts. Are you going to get enough players? Is this program going to last? Are we going to have the whole year? And it all started with one. We had to get that one and build from there. And I think, me and Coach Chad, who I brought in as our assistant, at the time, we probably talked to over 300, players. And it was great. We met a lot of families, met a lot of different players, got a lot of perspective from them and some insight. And, we were able to get that first group finally to come in. And it was like, all right, hey, we're good. We got our first round of players, watched a lot of videos, got sent a lot of things, brought them in to get started. And it was like, okay, now let's get them into, this is what we got to do to compete. And it was a lot. It was hard work. There's long Zooms, 10, 11 o'clock at night, but it was worth it. And I wouldn't, change it for a second.
That is something that I had always when I looked at your roster the first time that we worked with each other last year. Um, the thing that always blew me away was the players from all over. You had Ella Hayes from Missouri, just outside of Kansas City, Haley Pickrell of Utah. You had a couple players from Texas, Casey Garcia and Vay Savage. Vay Savage now over at Rider, Division One, and many others. You had your Utah, your somebody. I think Morgan Metcham was from Idaho, and there are just these players from all over. And then I look at the community colleges, like we did a community college soccer game today. It was Atlantic Cape and the Roadrunners. For Atlantic Cape, pretty much every player on that roster was from the Cape Atlantic League. And for the Roadrunners, we have one out of state player on the men's soccer team. And that's a guy that came from California somehow, and he's on our team. I don't even know the backstory behind that. But you had two in-state players on your entire roster this year. You had, let's see, Faith Penn of Pennsville and Caitlin LaGreca of Washington Township. I mean, the thing that I just got to ask is that in the recruiting process, what is the selling point that you bring up to the players of come to Carney's Point and maybe 1,000, 2,000 plus miles from home and play some JUCO softball. Like that's the thing that I kind of want to pick your brain about is just the recruiting process of bringing people from so far out and bringing them to Carney's Point. How did you navigate that?
Yeah, well, I don't want to give too much secrets away, but no,
What you
it's
can.
yeah. Truthfully, with a lot of our out of state athletes, some of them, either hit the recruiting trail late, right? Maybe didn't get a lot of support by coaches or kind of unaware of how to get into recruiting and, maybe didn't get the opportunities that they, other players are fortunate to have. We just took advantage of that, right? Like, hey, we're going to reach out to you. Let's get to know you. Let you get to know us. See if it's going to be a good fit. A lot of the players, that do find interest. A lot of them will fly out for a weekend and kind of just tour the campus. And some of them like the small area, right? They like the class sizes that they're going to learn. The other thing is they're coming in ready to play, right? You're not waiting. We always say everyone starts day one the same, right? Doesn't matter if you're a returner, you're a transfer, you're an incoming freshman, you're going to have the opportunity to earn your playing time. And we stick by that, and it just works. It's a healthy relationship we have. People believe in each other. They're pushing each other to get better. And it's just great. It's a great atmosphere. But we're bringing in good kids with good families. The parents are in the Zooms. We're getting to know them. They're asking great questions, and where we're located in New Jersey, people kind of take for granted sometimes, right? Like we have so many schools and so much in our area that players out in Texas, their closest school might be 3 hours away. So their mindset is, hey, we're probably going to be going away anyway from home, right? If we're going to college, we're probably going away, and their biggest school next to them might be Texas Tech. Well, that's a very hard competitive place to get into, especially if you want to do softball. So we give them the opportunity to come in, build, play right away, get that experience. Last year I think we had close to 50 game schedule. There's some D3s that don't even get the 50 games. So the fact that they get that college level pace, the student athlete schedule, and then they get to build that now for when they transfer. And we did a good job last year with our first sophomore class, getting them out and getting them to places to continue to play. And that's the selling point, right? Like, hey, we're going to do everything we can to hone your skills, to get you better. Find out what your strengths are and keep building them, and then work on those weaknesses that need to be, tweaked or a little bit better. In hopes of, hey, we're going to try and get you somewhere else to continue to play. And that's our goal. So us, connecting with other coaches, using our resources, using film. Hats off to you. I don't think we gave you enough credit either, but your videos and your film for us, we're able to use that footage for our players and those families. I'll tell you what, they loved it. I don't think we got to share some of the good comments we had from your broadcasting last year, but you made a lot of people's day because you gave them that real life feeling. And so I can't thank you enough for that. And I know our parents and our players loved it. And getting some commentating. We don't get a lot of that. So hearing a voice behind a video and going through and hearing their names was awesome. So I think just little things like that, man, just puts us over the edge. And a lot of schools don't do that. So we were able to take advantage of those days, and glad we linked up. But it was awesome. So just those things, man, just kind of selling that point of, you're not just a number in our classrooms, and our professors want to see you succeed. And depending on what their major is, I mean, we have a very good competitive nursing program. So little things like that that can kind of get them in, and get them what they want, right? Coming in, competing, playing. Cheap tuition, out of state tuition. We're able to offer a little bit of some scholarships, so kind of using that to our advantage as well. And we just have. I really believe we have a really good staff too. I mean, our professors, our faculty, our mission staff. I mean, they're so friendly. And being small, just like you can relate to, it's a good feeling when everybody knows everybody, right? You're walking around campus and someone knows your name, and I think that's one thing that we definitely benefit from on our campus.
I have to agree with you there. I think that there are a lot of things that people take for granted when it comes to community colleges. And one of the things that I never really thought about was the fact that, in Texas and in some of those rural places, like I think Blackfoot, Idaho, you might not have a school for hundreds of miles. And, it's kind of like, if you're going to go big, and if we're going to go far, we might as well go even farther and try something new. And, go somewhere different, especially if you're going to be a part of a winning program, because, I think that you guys are going to have a lot of success with getting more of those out of town players because you have those numbers to back you up. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that that first year, as you said, getting that first round of players was the most difficult because you had to convince them to join a rebuilding program. Now you have that winning season of 2024, and whatever you may do in the future with the program, you'll have that under your belt that you can then piggyback off of and say, hey, we are a historically winning program. Here's why you should come to Carney's Point.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And now we can be a little bit more selective, and we're bringing in pieces that we're graduating a certain amount or positional base, and we're bringing that in. So it's a little bit nicer now to kind of get on your feet and kind of now go through the recruiting process a little bit more easier. It still has its ups and downs and challenges for sure. And convincing that first group, you're being recruited onto a team that's starting up. There's a position for everybody, right? So you're stepping in right away, ready to compete from day one with pretty much no interference other than amongst each other about who's gonna maybe play this game. But we did a good job of balancing it out, and we believe everyone has a role. So whether you're starting in game one, or you might be pitch hitting game one and starting game two, or whatever it might be, the moment that they accepted that role and bought into it, just kicked off from there. So.
And one of the things that I think helps is the current state of the recruiting process, where I notice this a lot in softball camps. The players come to you. And when they are on the showcases, I know a couple classmates of mine when I was in high school that are maybe like a year or two younger, and they're on the softball team, they're in the softball camps, and they're traveling all up and down the East Coast. And the same applies for those travel teams in Texas and Utah and whatever. So, I think one of the things that I mentioned when I was talking to Dan McMaster, he's the Cherry Hill West baseball coach, and he also is a scout, or a kind of like a part-time scout for the Phillies in the New Jersey, Delaware, and Eastern PA area. So one of the things that we talked about was how the recruiting process was different 20 years ago when he was a college pitcher and being recruited by William and Mary in Division One programs, to how it is to be recruited today. And he's been on both sides of that. Now, for softball, the recruiting process has made it such that you don't have to travel to Arizona to recruit a player. That player from Arizona might just literally be playing 20 minutes down the road, and you can scout them and recruit them there. Have you found that to be easier in the recruiting process? The fact that the players are coming to you in these showcases?
Yeah, it definitely has its benefits, and like I said, a lot of them that do get the resources or support on how to reach out and how to form an email or good communication to us. It definitely helps us out. It gets them on our radar for sure. And we're able to navigate that. Also, different recruiting sites too. We want to see, that gives coaches feedback for those players. It gives us good video insight on some things that we're able to kind of see a little bit. If we're not able to travel somewhere or they can't travel out to us. So it's definitely easier. We definitely take full advantage. We're traveling when we're not playing. We're going to different areas. So it definitely has its advantages for sure. And it makes our life a little easier, right? We can travel down to Pennsville when they host the East Coast Showcase right in our backyard, and playing on our fields that we play on, and connect with those athletes and travel around too. So there's a lot of good opportunities. Um, and the recruiting process has been a little bit easier for us. And again, it's for the right person, right? Not everyone's thinking JUCO, and some people, depending on how their relatives or friends or people that had experience in JUCO might not like it. They're definitely not for it, right? So, I definitely say JUCO is for the right person for the right reasons. So, and we benefit from that, right? We're looking for those athletes that want to be here, want to come in and play, and like I said, not everybody wants to go that route for whatever reason, but the ones that we can grab up and come in to compete to help not only us but themselves is a huge factor too.
And I like what you said there about JUCO's not for everybody, but for the people that it is for them for a reason, just like it is for me. I'm in junior college for a reason. I want to save money and I want to get an education in a smaller environment, especially for those first 2 years. Um, like I went to Audubon High School that has maybe 800 kids across 7 through 12. I never had the largest class I ever had in high school was junior year chemistry class, and that was 26. And I know some people that went to giant high schools, obviously with you going to Gloucester City, you were in a similar situation because Gloucester's not that big either. But, I know some people that went to Washington Township, went to Kingsway, Clearview, this, that, and the other thing, and they've got classes with 40, 50 people in it. So I think it's nice that, those kids that want to stay in the smaller environment have that option. And not only do they have that option, it's more financially stable as well. Uh, so what do you think is the main reason for you? Because there is a lot of great softball talent in Jersey and in the surrounding areas like Philly and Delaware. What is the main reason that you mostly chose to recruit from states further away from New Jersey instead of close to home?
Yeah, I don't really think we have much of a choice, right? I mean, it's kind of what's kind of being presented to us, what we're finding, athletes and families we're talking to. I mean, trust me, I'd be the first one to say I would love, athletes around closer. It makes my job a little easier, navigating, making sure they're coming in, and that they know the area, and they have cars and things like that, because there's so much that goes into an out of state player, that a lot of people might not know of. So, I would just say again, taking the area, right? Not too many people realize, we want someone from, example like Kate at Washington Township when we got her. No, we know their family, right? They were in our brawlers organization. We kind of knew them a little bit. So for us, it was like, hey, let's get you on our campus. Come play for us. And there's not many people that want to do that commute, right? There's already everyone's in their county. They're 15 minutes from RCSA Gloucester or Cumberland or Atlantic Cape or Mercer. So again, it all factors into what that player wants to do, right? Do they want to travel again? And some of them travel so much in travel ball that they don't want to travel no more. They want to be on campus, or they just want to go and be at a 4 year school. And truthfully, you got to find the place that is right for you. I truly believe that. Going on their campus, meeting the coaches, meeting the players that are there, making sure that it's somewhere you want to fit in at, and that you're going to be comfortable. I've seen a lot of really good athletes, go to a place, and they're being pushed there from coaches or travel teams or family members, and they go there for a semester and they're back at their local community colleges. They had a terrible experience, or the atmosphere wasn't right, or the coach left, and they really went there for that coach. So there's so many factors that go into it, and we're down at the bottom of New Jersey, so it's usually a hike for anybody, unless if you're from Salem County. And again, we're finally getting known, right? So we're getting some local athletes now recently that are finding interest, that have been coming on campus. We had a busy fall so far with a lot of people coming to our camps, or coming to campus for a visit. So I think you'll start seeing maybe a little bit of a trend of some local athletes more coming up. But we're always going to meet with those out of state athletes and still push them because you just don't know what's out there, and there's so many people looking for opportunities. So I love giving a player an opportunity coming in here and watching them succeed. Right, that there's no better feeling, and then now watching them move on and starting their next path in their careers is just super rewarding for us, and that's the goal, right? We want to see them succeed far beyond softball too. Especially being a female athlete, right? There's not many pro levels. There's not like a huge next step after college. You get the 4 years, and then you're right into the real world of working and trying to start a family and all those things. So, as much as we love to succeed on the field, our goal is also building character, right? Building them ready for the real world. And that's why I love our out of state athletes. There's nothing more that's going to prepare you than being on your own, right? Living in an apartment, going through bills, being self efficient. And I look back at our class last year and catching up with them or hearing stories on how they're doing. That's what it's all about.
And I never really thought about the fact that it escaped me for a second there, but when you started out as a program, you didn't have much of a choice. It the way it appeared online, or at least on the roster, was that like, oh, he likes to recruit out of state guys, but it wasn't really your choice. If you could recruit closer to home, then great. But you kind of had to play with the cards that you were dealt. And I say this a lot about high school coaches, where you know I think that high school athletics is one of the hardest coaching jobs that you can have because you have to build a roster based off of what you're given, especially for a public school. Private schools may be a different story, but in public schools, you can't really recruit much. You just have to recruit inside of your own town, at the little league games or whatnot. So, the fact that you also ran through some of that where your hand was a little bit forced in what you had to, in who you had to select on your roster and who you had to, include just because of that recruiting process. Now that you're going to be in year three in 2025, things might be a little bit different in the coming years. There might be some, as you said, there might be some more in-state players coming through just because that's what you will now have at your disposal. Um, so 2023, that's your first season as a head coach, or I should say first season of playing as a head coach. Um, so you were able to spend that first year being able to recruit and build up the roster, get some NLIs, and get the interest pumping so that you can actually play games in 2023. So just I should say, because it is the first season in 10 years that Salem fielded a softball team, what was the biggest challenge for you in the early going of your first season?
Yeah, number one was just how am I going to get all these players to get on the same page, right? I mean, we brought in I think 15 or 16 players that we didn't know, right? We knew one kind of, outside of that, we didn't know a lot of them. So breaking their, however they were coached and trying to get them on the college level, right? And then getting them to like things that we want. Every coach teaches something different, whether it's cutoffs, it's hitting, it's being a small ball team. So there's so many factors that we had to kind of like get everyone on board with. Plus, we had to get to know them. It was very hard. We had the whole year to kind of recruit. And some of the players we got up early, we kind of, lost touch with them a little bit because we're recruiting more people and we're like kind of following up with them. And we don't see them until August when they get on campus, right? So we had a lot to do from day one. Um, getting them ready for that level. And there's no culture there to rely on, right? We kind of have to build the culture. We have to, get them ready for what a practice day looks like and a routine. And so I think the hardest part was kind of getting them on that level and breaking them in early and getting to know them too, right? There's 15 personalities, 15 different ways that people get coached. There's some players that you can really get on that, want to be pushed. There's other players that shut right down from that too. So kind of knowing what everyone's coaching style is going to fit best and what they're going to need to get to that next level was for sure a little difficult. And knowing the college world, right? What is acceptable? What can we post? What does their schedule look like? So it was a little bit of navigating, kind of learning on the fly and relying a lot on some other coaches and people that now we can call friends. So it was rewarding, but it definitely was a harder start. Kind of getting everyone on the same page, and we had a couple injuries here and there in the fall, so kind of dealing with that and moving people around, and we had a couple people leave in the fall, added some in the spring, so kind of understanding that part as well. But it turned out to be very good once we kind of got our feet landed and got into a routine and started figuring it out together. It was definitely good.
And yeah, with you guys coming from and the roster makeup in that first year being so spread out from the West Coast to the South, all the way to the Midwest and beyond, you had to coach or you had to break in a new coaching style that was accustomed to what you needed, but also you had to kind of shift everybody out of what they had already, or not out of what they had already learned, but into what your vision was. And it's not like they were 15 minutes around the corner and how, like let's say if you're a South Jersey Community College softball coach, oh, I know how Kingsway does their coaching over there. They do this, that, and the other thing. I know how Washington Township does their coaching. This is what they do. But you didn't have that at your disposal because you don't know what Liberty North high school softball coach, you don't know how they do their business over there. You don't know how they teach softball in Idaho. So you kind of had to learn from the players how they were coached, and then that's kind of a coaching moment for you, and then reflect what you knew and what back onto them. So it's a very interesting process, and that's part of the reason why you're on this show, is because you have an interesting story. I wouldn't interview any old community college softball coach, because a lot of times it's the same story over and over. But not only did you have to build a program from the ground up, you had to do it with players that were 2,000 plus miles away and had been taught in entirely different environments and had maybe never even stepped into the state of New Jersey before you recruited them to be Mighty Oaks. So, your first game back as a program in 10 years, in March of 2023, Fayetteville Tech of North Carolina, you guys were away for that. And even though neither of those doubleheaders was a win for you, it was a step in the right direction because the games were close. And it didn't even matter that the games were close because the program was back and back running. What was that feeling for you to finally bring the program back after a full year of you being the coach and having to build up this team? Now you finally got to see them in action. What was that feeling like?
Yeah, it was rewarding to say the least. Just kind of taking in, not even just the hard work that we put in to make sure we were able to do this. Having the support from the players. They put in a lot of work, a lot of hard work. Going down south to start is never easy because a lot of those teams are already 6, 7, 8 games in, and a lot of them are programs that've been around for a while, right? They have a culture, they know the area, they've already kicked off their season. So for us, we kind of knew it was going to be a challenge, but we wanted that, right? Like we were ready. By the time we went down there, we were amped up. We had a really good drive down. It was fun. It was laid back. A lot of good memories on that trip, and I think that's what started the culture of our team. Anytime you get to do a trip with your group, you get to know a lot about them. They get to know you. We bond a lot off, and they were amped up too. Like it was their first college game, and we celebrate all that. The first day of classes, we at the end of practice, we said like, you just got through your first day of a college class. Like that's awesome. And some of them are first gen students where they don't have anyone that went to college, or they're the first ones, or they get to experience something they didn't think they were going to do. Same thing with softball. There were two really good games, and we started off pretty good. Even defensively, Corinne Trice had two diving plays in center field. Someone who wanted to play the infield, and started off with a bang, and stuff like that just showed like everything we did for that year leading up to that paid off. The players were excited. We're hitting the ball. We're playing a good Fayetteville team, that was amped up too. And like I said, they were home. They're already, I think at that point they had 8 games in. So for us, we were at a little bit of a disadvantage. But we embraced it, and it was awesome. It was super rewarding. We make a trip out of it every year now to go down there. Love Coach John; he's awesome. But it was a good feeling for us as coaches. Like we knew we were good. We just had to see it against somebody else other than ourselves with inter squads or mini competitions. So I think we knew from that day, after we finished that doubleheader, we were going to be okay.
And that's always a rewarding feeling, right? It's good to know that you can compete against real competition. I think one of the things that I think about is the fall schedule that you guys have. Um, you know, I covered a couple of those last year in Jackson and down in Wilmington, and you guys held your own against Wilmington University, a Division II program. And I'm not talking about NJCAA. I'm talking about NCAA Division II. You guys played decent against them. Same with Chesapeake, I think was the other one, and Purchase College, very good games against teams from far out, and it was it was nice to see that change. And you have to be willing to play teams a little bit out of your comfort zone in order to develop. And like a game against a NCAA Division II school, that's certainly a game out of your comfort zone. You're not going to find a team like that in your regular March and April schedule, but you have to play up to get better. And that's what we see in all collegiate sports with college football. Why does Rutgers play Howard on the first week of the season? Or why does Alabama play, Jackson State or something like that? It's so that those teams can get better because they are playing up to their competition. And that goes all the way down, even to the high school football and high school athletics level, where teams that maybe don't have the best shot overall, will still play a competitive game against a team that they know is a couple levels up because they want to get better. And if you what is the phrase? If you want to be the best, you have to beat the best, and that's exactly what you guys have strived for. So now that you're in your first, or you're going to be in your third season, you've completed two already, and your first two seasons are kind of like night and day. 16 and 18 in 2023, and then you guys hop out for 31 wins in 2024 and a playoff berth in NJCAA Region 19. What was the biggest difference for you besides the wins and losses between year one and year two of your tenure here at Salem?
Yeah, we added some depth, which definitely helps. It helps the practice routine and drills and competition. We added some key pieces that we definitely needed. Both offensively and defensively. We added some good players to kind of push our sophomores and get them into wanting to come in and compete and play. And the culture was there, right? That first group that we brought in, they were hungry. Like they got the full year of what it was going to be like. And that next year, we ended the season at Lackawanna getting swept for a chance to get into the tournament for our region, and that stuck with them. They definitely did not like that at all. They didn't like that feeling, but they knew they had another shot of coming back and getting it done. And they trusted us as coaches that, hey, we're going to bring in some key pieces to help us out, to keep this program going, to make us better. And the players we brought in were able to do that. Um, and it was just good. Some of our players that had to play, positions they normally wouldn't, or pulling double duty. Some of our pitchers had to play positional positions, and sometimes our catcher had to play short or had to play first. So it was kind of tight. We had a lot of people moving all over, and as you know, especially at the college level, getting reps at these positions is very key. So we're constantly moving them around. So going in game one to catch and then playing the field, it's a different atmosphere, right? You're getting balls at you differently. So I think that second year helped us, really put players in positions where they knew they were going to be locked in. They were getting a ton of reps there. They were getting better. They finally felt comfortable with what they were doing. And it took a break from our pitchers. Our pitchers, were able to be POs. They really embraced that role. They loved it. They got to really work on that in practice. Still doing their normal work, but only focused on that to get better and develop themselves. And then same thing with our players. We finally navigated that first year of who can do what at the best level they can. And it helped us out for that second year. And like I said, they embraced their role. They knew that they had to come together in order to win, and they did that. People that only base ran in game one, they embraced it, and the teammates embraced it for them, and that was the culture that we had. That we celebrated everything. You laid a bunt down and sacrificed snap to get a runner from first to third. We love that. You have a pop up to center field instead of being mad you popped up. You're excited because you just scored a run, and the players realize that too. So I think celebrating the small victories, no matter what, in that second year, I think really developed our team culture a lot, and it brought us to that next level, and it paid off. I mean, they were definitely hungry. They wanted it, and they showed for it for sure.
And one of the things that I always mention when I'm talking to somebody involved in the community college scene is the turnover, because you only have a player for 2 years. And, when you're talking about 4-year collegiate rosters, we always talk about, okay, who are the seniors that are going to be leaving? What about this new freshman class? That process is accelerated for the community college because even at the high school level, if you have a very young roster, you can hold on to that core for 3 or 4 years. But at community colleges, you don't really have that option. Once 2 years pass, you have to start from scratch and you have an entirely new roster that has to be built. It's like, it is a plant that always has to be watered again and again and again, or else it's just not going to last. So for you, now that you have gone through two full seasons as a head coach, and you have seen that turnover in effect, the first seniors that or the first freshmen that you had in 2023 have now walked and have gone on to somewhere else, whether it's softball or otherwise, and now you have an entirely new batch of people in the building. What is maybe it's not the hardest thing. What is the biggest point that you notice about managing a community college program that has this 2-year turnover?
Yeah, well, number one, it's definitely bittersweet. Talking to a lot of our players, that graduate last year, all of them. I think if they were able to make this a 4 year, I think they would. They loved it that much, and just the competition was great. And I think for us, it's just having to do it all over again, right? Having to meet a whole new group of athletes, bring them back into our atmosphere. But the good thing is we can rely now on that returning group, right? They went through the year. They know what it took. They know what we expect in practices. They know what our coaching style is. So they kind of like take that leap as kind of leaders to guide that new incoming class in to get them on par on where we need to be. And we create a fun culture, right? It's fun, but it's competitive, and we want to win, right? That's the goal, that our players have, and they know that in order to do that, we got to buy in. We got to be able to do the little things. We got to work hard. You got to show up with a purpose of what we're going to do at practice, and also like having fun when you show up. I always say our practices are pretty loose. Sometimes we'll play music throughout the week. And it's just a light environment, right? And then we put in some competition things as well to kind of put pressure on. But we want to win. I always say, you can have a bunch of people run to the fence and back, but if you tell them that they get $100 when they get back, now you get all the effort. So that's what we want to include. We always want something to chase. And they do a really good job of doing that, whether it's a big game coming up or a reward of a stress down day for practice or whatever the case may be. They're earning something each week. And I think just kind of getting everyone back on board with that, from our meetings in the preseason before we start and leading up to the first day we're outside. Also, being a JUCO school, we don't have a lot of limitations, right? We're not a Division 3 or NCAA team where they only get a certain amount of practice dates or time together. We get the full 2 months of really putting in some hard work. So I think it allows us to get them on board quicker, but it also kind of gives them that fast pace too of steadiness. So, but yeah, bringing in that new class is always difficult because you got to redo everything you just focused on for 2 years, and getting them on board. But it's rewarding, right? Like we get to really see what we got and what we have to work on and break some habits. But once they kind of break through that, it's going to be good because they're getting to where we need them to be.
I never thought about that with the NCAA and the practice dates. I never realized that there was a limit on the practice dates that you can have. in NCAA. But in junior college, I guess it's a little bit different, and you can, I guess you can kind of go a little bit wild, not wild, but you can be a little bit freer with it. I never considered that. So, yeah, I guess that's a little bit new, but yeah, I mean, like at RCSJ Gloucester, left the campus today to go home after the soccer game. Baseball team's out there. It's the middle of October. They're taking batting practice. They're doing what they have to do, and just like with you guys, we were talking as we were scheduling this episode. You had practice until 6 on one of these days, and then there was another one that it was early on the weekend, and you had them until 12. So. Um, like I guess you can be a little bit freer with what you can schedule or whatnot, but yeah, that's very interesting. Never thought of that. So now that you're in year three, what would you say has been whether it's building the culture or whether it's the relationships that you've built with your cohorts over the years. Um, you've been in it for a little while now here with Salem. What's your favorite part of the job?
Man, I would say, just interacting with the players, being on campus and having them walk by and stop in the office and just talk about life. They come in, we get to really get to know them. Whether it's, what their favorite meal is or what their parents are bringing in that weekend or some things that culturally are known to them that they get to bring in. We have a lot of different backgrounds and ethnicities on our team. So just kind of knowing their culture and where they're from and getting to know them personally is definitely rewarding. And then seeing that translate onto the field. And then just watching them bond. We do a lot of team bonding exercises. Each year I try to do something different, especially for our sophomores. So it's not like repetitive, like, oh, we did that last year. So trying to find different ways to kind of incorporate that team culture, the family atmosphere that we want to build on our team. And they embrace that too. They're very close. They're hanging out in between classes. They're going to the gym, getting extra reps. A lot of them daily. I mean, if you come out to a practice and stick around for 10 minutes after, there's always a group working together when they're done. And for me, that's everything right there. That just shows that we have the right people in our program, or players that want to get extra reps, or have questions about something. Like that's what it's about for us. And there's no better feeling. We always say, if you don't know anything, you have a question, just ask. Right? We're not here to diminish you. We're here to help you out, and you might not know everything, and that's okay. And we're going to work through it. But that is super rewarding when you leave the field and half your team is still there, hitting in the cage. Someone's hitting them ground balls. Our pitchers are getting extra work in. Sometimes I sit in my car and just kind of take it in, and like this is it right here. And it's awesome.
That's always great to hear, and especially the fact that your players, they are such hard workers that they will stay after and do the dirty work, do the extra that they need to do to get better. And that's kind of a culture that you've instilled in them is the culture of hard work. And the team bonding, as you mentioned, it is important at all levels to have a team that not only works together well, but they're good friends and they hang out on the field and they have good laughs and that's something that we don't always appreciate in the sports world, especially in the more professional sports world. I think 94 WIP would like to break up some friendships on that Phillies infield, but look, yeah, at the community college, that's you have to have those relationships. You have to have those good cohorts, and good acquaintances and friends that you work with, because what do I say? What did I forget who this is attributed to, but if you love what you do, you never have to work a day in your life, and it seems like you are well on that path right now. So what we will close with is the question that I have, maybe an open-ended question that I have closed every episode of this rebooted version of the Dan Wilkins Show with. And you can take this from any point in your career, whether it is as an assistant at Gloucester, whether it's your time at Salem as the head coach, or in any other capacity of your career, your favorite story from your career, whether it's one that you've told already or not, your favorite story from your career. The floor is yours.
All right, man, that's a good question. You start thinking of a lot of fun stories that you had to deal with. I would say mine came, in my first year at Salem. Where I'm very known for leaving my keys in my car. So we take a trip, a softball trip up. I think we're at Bucks Community College. And we stopped at Raising Cane's. It was like, big and everyone wanted to try it. So it sounded great. Oh, let's go do it. Knowing me, I get out of our SCC van because that's what we had took up there. And I left the keys right in the ignition. We go in, and next thing I know, we walk out. Great meal. We're all full. We're ready to get back. It's a Sunday, and the doors are locked. So we waited around. The other van waited for us. So the girls are over at Five Below, and they're shopping. They're waiting for the police officer to come and unlock the car. We fast forward probably a year later, and it turns out our pitcher Morgan Meacham confessed to me on sophomore day that she indeed locked the car because their bags were in there. And she just assumed that I had the keys. So this whole time I'm feeling guilty. I feel bad. We're going to get home super late. It's a school night. A lot of our, in spring, we're at 8 a.m. classes. And they're on me the whole ride. I can't believe you did this. Come on, coach. You got to start taking the keys. And a year later, I find out it wasn't actually me for the first time. Morgan locked it, and she was like, "Coach, I have to let you know." And my face when she told me on software day, I mean, it's an emotional day for us. We're celebrating our first class. It's bittersweet, and I'm sitting. I'm like, "You're joking." And it was just we just started laughing, and the players all knew that was the best part. So not only are they hounding me, but they knew the whole time. So it was great. They kept that secret for a long time. I'm impressed, but again, shows you how close they are. Like not one person even spilled that bean, and it was awesome. Like those are the things that are great. But I couldn't believe it. I was shocked.
It's funny you mentioned Raising Cane's because like I just 2 years ago it was like a relic that you had to travel 6 hours for, and now there's one in Cherry Hill, there's one in Deptford. I'm sure there's one. Yeah, I think there's one on the University of Delaware campus right over the bridge for you guys. But that is great. So you guys are
Locked it.
going down to like the Carolinas for this trip,
No,
and
we're up at Bucks in PA.
oh, Bucks. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought you mentioned something else because I think of Raising Cane's and I think of, oh, it's the Carolinas and stuff like
Yep.
that. But yeah, so wow. So I guess you had this reputation. I've never heard of anybody having a reputation for leaving their keys in the car.
Yeah, they would know. I mean, our players would, I park right in the front spot into our one building, and our players knew. So I used to have waters in there. They would just open the door, take a water. Yeah, and then now I've gotten better after realizing everyone caught on to that. But yeah, it was something else, man. It was funny, and I can't believe it. It was incredible, and that was a long car ride. It's well over an hour drive in a van after a doubleheader, and we were exhausted. And I was so mad at myself. I'm like, man, I really made him late. The officer that came and helped us out stepped in ketchup. It went up his leg. It was just a whole mess overall. And yeah, it just wasn't good. They're recording it, and it was a fun time. But yeah, to find out a year later, that was incredible.
That that is incredible that she kept that for sophomore day.
Yeah,
And that is an incredible story. Yeah, I would say that's up there. Yeah, when it comes to because like I said, that's the fourth person I've asked this question to because we talked to Tad of Sterling, Dan of Cherry Hill West, and Andrew of Gateway. That's definitely up there. I would say that's up there if you watch episode 16 of the show. It's right up there with Andrew Daly. He was after his playing career was done, he played a couple of Division 1 and Division 2 schools. He actually played football in Germany, and he uh, was with this like semi-pro German team that paid him like $750 a week, whatever, something like that. And basically, when he went to go back home after he was done, they never gave him a work visa. So he got caught up in German customs trying to get home, and yeah, so that was a fun story, and I like yours as well because we all can kind of laugh at our mistakes afterwards, but as they're happening, they're like, "Oh crap, here we go again. The
yeah,
coach left
yeah.
his keys in the car."
Right, me too. It was bad. It was a bad look. in the Salem Community College van too, not even the rental. It was bad.
If it was
Calling,
your car, it would be one
yeah,
thing, but it wasn't even your car. It was Mighty Oak's property.
oh, no doubt, no doubt. And the best was having to call in and say like, "Hey, what's your vehicle?" I'm like, "It's the college van, 15 passenger, big logo on the side." So yeah, I was definitely embarrassed for sure.
I mean, it would be one thing, if it was just like, somebody's Toyota Corolla that they left the stuff in for, but I can't even like just hearing this story, I don't know if I can blame Morgan Meacham because she locked the car to protect the bags,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, she did it right. She did it right.
Yeah. Like I can't blame her for that, so
Yeah, I was just shocked. I said, "You let me live with that for well over a year. That's awesome."
and that's what builds great team cultures. That is an amazing note to end on. Angel, it has been an incredible conversation to have with you for this past hour, and we've learned a lot about the community college scene, something that a lot of people gloss over. I think even as I was in my younger years of high school and in middle school, people looked down on community colleges, not necessarily in the way that they weren't legitimate educational institutions, but the people that were in them, and the overall environment. And I feel like that opinion and that notion has lightened up in recent years. I see that the 2 year route is becoming more and more popular, especially for athletes who want a cheaper financial option for cases like your team. They might need a different option when it comes to who they want to play for, and building that independence. And I am enjoying my time as a road runner. You're enjoying yours as a Mighty Oak. And I think that that's something that a lot of people, I think, will understand more and more, because I see it all the time with athletes. They commit to a Power 5 program, they spend a year there, they get zero or very little playing time in games that don't matter, and then they leave and go somewhere else. I feel like the JUCO route kind of cuts out the middleman, where, yeah, you're going to get playing time for most programs, and you are going to get evaluated in different ways so that you can find the school that is good for you. Because people will shoot for the stars no matter what, but they're not going to hit every single time. And I like that about the JUCO route, and I like that about the fact that, it is almost guaranteed that you're going to get an opportunity, whether it's limited or whether you're a starter every day. You stress that a lot to your players, that you will give them that opportunity, whether it's for 5 games or for 50 games. You'll give them that opportunity to get evaluated and to get the recruiting that they need. And along with that, building up a program is never easy. And at one point, I believe we might reach out at some point to the current head coach of LaSalle baseball. They're building up their program. They closed in 2019 and are now building up the program for the 2025 season. Or I think it's either 2025 or 2026. I think it's 26 that they're going to be playing baseball again for the first time in 6 years in Philadelphia. So, Angel, it has been an honor talking to you, and I hope that that we see each other again on the softball diamond some point this spring.
Yeah, Dan, it's been a pleasure, man, and thanks for everything you've been doing. It does not go unnoticed. You're a hard worker. You bring a lot to this area for sports in both high school and college now. So we appreciate it, and you got a fan in us for sure.
And it is always greatly appreciated from you to me and from me to you. That'll be all for us for episode 17 of The Dan Wilkins Show from our entire crew here from DWBHQ in Audubon. Of course, we don't usually record in this location. We will have a double episode this week. Episode 18 with Ryan Sieber will be out on Saturday. We are recording this episode on Tuesday night. It will be out on Thursday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So if you're watching this at any other time, you'll know that's when we got on the air. Angel Rodriguez, I'm Dan Wilkins. We will see you next time on episode 18 of The Dan Wilkins Show. Take care.